Samford, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Kelsey Royalty.
And I'm Abby Jones. This week we've had some great Samford matchups and some even better highlights to show you guys, don't we, Kelsey?
We sure do. We're going to show you a little bit of VMI at Samford football, more in-season SoCon women's volleyball play, men's and women's cross country at Alabama, and last but not least, Samford women's soccer senior night. Take a look.
Friday night, October 14th, was one of the more special moments of the season, and it was not only senior night, but additionally it was the night of fundraising for the Shauna House, an enduring charity honoring Coach Yelton's late wife, Shauna, who lost her battle with cancer last year. $13,000 were raised for the charity. Samford would win the game with a score of 2-1, featuring 2 penalty kick goals from senior forward Jermaine Sia-Pasinwe. The Bulldog seniors have already compiled a remarkable 51-22-5 overall record and a 25-6-2 mark in the SoCon play, as well as high-profile victories against Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Alabama, Baylor, Wake Forest, Memphis, and Auburn twice. Following that special and emotional night, Samford played their final regular season home against the ETSU Buccaneers. The game all but belonged to the seniors as a 3-0 win, featuring goals from Anna Allen, Sarah Schmelzer, and Makanisha Kelly. In goal for the Bulldogs, junior Anna Maddox started the match and registered 4 key saves en route to her 9th victory of the season. Maddox now boasts an unblemished 9-0 record this season, as well as a minuscule .46 goals against average. The Samford University soccer team will next be in action Friday at 6 p.m. as they travel to Greensboro, North Carolina to take on UNCG. Taking a look at volleyball, the Bulldogs fell in both matchups this weekend on the road as they lost to UNCG 1-3 and Wofford 1-3 respectively. Volleyball is now 13-10 overall and 4-4 in conference. This past Friday, Samford participated in the Alabama Crimson Classic and saw very encouraging results. Propelled by a trio of top 20 finishes from Arsen Guillerel, Brandon Hazuri, and Ben Bryant, the Samford men claimed a 4th-place team finish with 148 points. The Bulldog placed ahead of Auburn 6th, Georgia Tech 7th, Alabama 8th, and Tennessee 13th. The Samford women placed very well given the competition as they notched a 9th place finish behind the efforts of juniors Carissa Nelson and Emma Garner. Nelson placed 7th in the 6K race with a personal best time of 20 minutes and 55.9 seconds, and Garner placed 11th in the personal best 21 minutes and 7.2 seconds. The Bulldog women tallied 259 points, while Alabama totaled 76 points to clinch the team title.
Wow, what a special night for Samford women's soccer. No way Coach Yelton could be any more proud of his girls.
And our Samford football team got another win this weekend against VMI. And although quarterback Devlin Hodges put up some great numbers, I think his teammate actually stole the spotlight.
Definitely did, Abby.
Devlin Hodges and Carell Hamilton must be inside each other's head. That seems to be the only explanation for how easy they execute Samford's up-tempo offense. QB Hodges hit Hamilton 12 times for 163 yards, including a touchdown. For the game overall, Hodges threw for 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a total of 435 passing yards. Who would have thought he could one-up himself from last week's 400-plus passing yards? In addition to Hamilton, his teammate, Emmanuel Obajimi, also racked up 8 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. Defensively, Dion Pierre had a game-changing interception which he returned 21 yards for a touchdown. Roosevelt Donaldson, Jamerson Blount, and Carter McManus shared the lead in tackles with 7 each. The combined offensive and defensive efforts resulted in a 55-21 win over VMI for the Bulldogs. They are now 5-1 overall and 3-1 in conference play. Dion Pierre made this victory for the Bulldogs into easily the most memorable of the season. The game had ended and most of the fans had cleared out when the team made a second entrance. This one was an entrance for the books. No smoke or charging out of an inflated Bulldog. Instead, a choreographed entrance to Ed Sheeran's Thinking Out Loud song. Meaning at center field, at least 20 Samford football players swayed and sang with roses in hand. Dion Pierre emerged from the crowd to find his girlfriend, Jasmine, stunned in the center of everyone. He took off his helmet, looked her in the eye, and asked him to marry her. She said yes. Afterward, when asked how he felt, he remarked that he had won twice today. Such a great night.
All right, so actually, Kelsey, Dion Pierre's proposal video went viral this week. It was on Bleacher Report, Sports Center, ESPN, Top 10, like you name it, it was on there, and it got 1 million views.
You know who's one of those million?
Tell me.
Drake.
He actually called him a legend, so, I mean, Dion Pierre,
Samford football.
kind of a legend around here. And like I said, our very own Dirk Haldewang caught up with John McAfoose. So he's the director of digital media here at Samford, and what, they've been here about 2 years now?
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, so they've caught up with him, and we're going to take a little bit of a look at what he does behind the camera.
Take a look.
Thank you, Abby. As the director of digital media, John, what does your job entail? Like, what do you do behind the scenes for the athletic department?
I do video production, and my main role really is live production of all of our home athletic events, live streaming. We stream roughly 100 events a year. In the fall, we stream all our home games for soccer, volleyball, and football. In the winter, we do men's and women's basketball, and in the spring, we do baseball and softball. So I'm responsible for overseeing that, scheduling students, putting everything together, and kind of producing our live shows.
All right. So for employees, like people, your workers, because I know you can't just run the show all on your own, do you use mainly students? If so, how many? And do you also use contract workers for offsite?
We rely heavily on students, yes. We use between anywhere from 2 to 3 for something like soccer or volleyball, up to 15 plus for something like football. We do have a few contracted workers that help out for football and men's and women's basketball, because those are ESPN3 productions and they require a much bigger staff than some of our smaller productions. So we have a few contracted workers, but for the most part, we really rely on students helping.
All right, so this weekend you're not doing an ESPN3 game, you're doing an American Sports Network game. Is there anything different that you need to do to prepare for these games?
The biggest difference is really an entirely different graphics package from them. And in the past, when we've done games on the American Sports Network, they've brought in their own crew, they've brought in their own TV truck and staff, and we haven't really had any students working or done any work on it. But it's changed this year where it is all in-house, just like ESPN3, and they're just taking the feed we send them. So the biggest difference is really just kind of going over the graphics package and getting used to all that and getting all that implemented in time for Saturday.
So what do you do to prepare for these games, whether it's ASN or ESPN or just Samford or SoCon Digital Network?
A lot of prep work, especially for the ESPN events. There's a lot of storyline planning the open. I talk a lot with Mike Grace, our director of broadcasting, Kurt Bloom, who does our play-by-play on ESPN, to kind of talk about ideas for the open. Mike's great with kind of building formats and coming up with some good storylines, since he's around the team all the time. And troubleshooting problems in live production, there's always equipment issues. Nothing, 1 week everything might work, and the next week there are issues that you have to fix. And on non-game days or non-game weeks, there's a lot of archiving video footage, cutting highlights, doing things like that. I review pretty much all of the broadcasts that we do, and I also review a lot of broadcasts from other Southern Conference schools to kind of see what they're doing and see if they have some cool ideas that I'd like to implement in our broadcast, or see what they're doing good or what they're not doing good, to kind of take some ideas from that.
Last question. What is your favorite part of this job?
Definitely the game days. It can be a lot of hours leading up to home football games, and a lot of stress and long weeks, but the execution phase is definitely the most fun part. When it comes to game day, about an hour before the game, you kind of get locked in, and then the game itself is a lot of fun and can be very rewarding.
Thank you, John. Back to you guys.
This week, Abby, we have a night game, 6 p.m. Central Time against Western Carolina, and Johnny Richards caught up with Kurt Bloom to take a preview at that.
Thanks, Kelsey. I'm Johnny Richards with Bulldog Blitz, here with Kurt Bloom, the voice of the Bulldogs on ESPN3, and then voice of the Barons here in town as well. Kurt, thank you for being here. Just looking ahead at this matchup as the only Saturday night game at home here this home season. What sticks out to you the most?
Well, the first thing is, Johnny, is you have the danger zone again, which means Western Carolina, their record is not good, they're not playing awfully well, and then you have a tendency to overlook and go, well, the Charleston game, the game up in Charleston against the Citadel's coming up, and that's one we want to focus on. But Coach Hatcher's done a great job all year. The most important game is the one right in front of you. So what sticks out is a ranked team in Samford, an unranked team with no wins in the conference, but always dangerous because it is a conference win. And at this point, Western Carolina, they've got nothing to lose. What do they have to gain? They have a chance to knock off a potential conference champion.
Definitely. And just to your point, they are super dangerous. They are just behind Samford in almost every single offensive category in the SoCon. And just looking ahead at that, is there anything that you would say Coach Hatcher is going to do on the defensive side of the ball to combat that?
I've spent now a year and a half with Coach Hatcher and his coordinators, and the one thing that you'll learn very, very quickly is that Coach does what is their strength. And instead of, here's what we're going to adapt to this, that, and that, this is what we do well, we'll look up, and when they give us this, we'll take it. If they don't give us this, we're not going to take it. So they're not going to do anything over extraordinarily out of their realm of playing football. The Samford has already faced a top-notch rushing team. They've faced a top passing team. So by now, and you're more than halfway through the season, it's not anything different. It's making sure each player, you play your lane, you play your position, and you do what got you there. You don't want to, I'm Superman today. I saw, Dion get the pick six. That's going to be me today. Now you worry about your team, covering your zone, covering your area.
Definitely, and as Coach Hatcher likes to say, win your matchup. So that makes a whole lot of sense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, obviously things start with Devlin, and Coach wants to put a lot on him. They did a really good job this past week against VMI of spreading out the carries and getting a lot of rushing yards that way. Is that the same scheme you think they'll take this week, or is there something more particular that you think they will do on offense?
We've talked all year long to the coaches about running and trying to get somebody hot, carrying the rock.
For sure.
And ultimately, a lot of the short Samford passes are the same as runs. So your stats are going to be a little skewed because of that. Russ Callaway has said this more than once. He said, yes, we want to get one guy hot, one guy that can give us 90 to 100 yards. Right? If you have it, that gives Devlin a little bit more options. But I tell you, Devlin has played as well as anybody at this level right now. 3 consecutive conference players of the week. His numbers are extraordinary. I've talked about him on television and radio as a potential All-American, and the numbers are telling you that. So you mentioned it right perfectly. It starts with Devlin. In this case, if you're Western, you've got to try to put pressure on Devlin, get him out of his rhythm. Now, how do you do that? I have no idea. I mean, I'm not a defense coordinator, but that's the key. You have to slow him down, and then if you're able to keep his numbers at a lower rate, you got a chance.
And that's all we have here for Johnny and Kurt Bloom. Back to you guys.
So make sure you come support the Samford Bulldogs this weekend at 6.
I think that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Kelsey Royalty.
And I'm Abby Jones, and thanks for tuning in.